Okay, so this is going to be my official Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez versus Juan El Gallo Francisco Estrada trilogy prediction. Now, even though I'm showing you highlights of the first fight, I'm going to get this out of the way real quick. I don't think it's fair to go back and look at the first fight and try to compare it to the third fight, because it was literally a decade ago. The first fight took place in 2012, so that's too far too gone to be making comparisons to. And I'll give you a perfect example of why. Look at the first McGregor-Poirier fight, if you're an MMA fan, okay? Then go and look at the second and third one. Or even to a lesser extent, the first two Canelo Triple G fights, then the third one was a dud, because Golovkin was older. So I don't think it's fair to look at the first fight as comparison to this trilogy coming up. I think it's much more logical to look at the second fight that happened a year and a half ago, and what both guys have been up to recently. So I'm not going to go through the tail of the tape on this one. There's no need to. I mean, Juan Francisco Estrada has a 3-year age advantage. He's 32. Chocolatito's 35, and he has a 2-inch reach advantage. He has a 66-inch reach, where Chocolatito has a 64-inch reach. But other than that, we all know their history. We all know their credentials. They're both fantastic fighters. They both should be on the pound-for-pound list still, as far as I'm concerned. And let me restate this also. I'm a big Juan Francisco Estrada fan. I was just getting pissed off because he kept pulling out of this fucking trilogy fight. Now, this is a gigantic legacy-defining fight for both of these guys. Both of the first two fights were wars. I think it's going to be a fucking absolute war of a fight in the third one. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Both guys are going to lay it all on the table. They're arch rivals in the boxing ring. They respect each other, but they're inside that squared circle. They're arch nemesis. So, so big props to both of these guys for making one of the best fights of the year. Hats off to all my Mexicanos and all my Nicaraguan people. God bless you all. Happy to see these two champions get it on again. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. But as far as the matchup goes, I mean, we've all seen the first two. We've all seen the first two fights. And I stick with the opinion that Chocolatito clearly won that second fight. I've went back and watched it numerous times. I remember on my old channel, I even rescored it live with Thunderdome. And no bad blood here. Shout out to Thunderdome. But hope he's well. But we actually rescored it together one time. And I believe we either had it 8-4 or 9-3 for Chocolatito. I mean, Chocolatito... Juan Francisco Estrada had some early success in the first two rounds, and then Chocolatito just took over. And I think I gave Gallo a couple of the latter rounds, but Chocolatito clearly won the second fight. He got robbed. So in my mind, Chocolatito hasn't lost since Rung Vasai, okay? Jesus Christ with these fucking commercials. Chocolatito, in my mind, hasn't lost since the two Rung Vasai fights, and even that first Rung Vasai fight was, debatable as well. So, in my mind, Chocolatito's been on a tear. He had a couple of tune-up fights after the Rung Vasai loss. He knocked out Calify, won the WBA title, the Superfly WBA title. Had a good fight with Israel Gonzalez, then got robbed against Estrada in the rematch in a fight he clearly won. Then he went on to beat Julio Cesar Martinez earlier this year. And that was a fight where a lot of people were picking Julio Cesar Martinez to knock Chocolatito out because of his youth, his power, and all this other shit. And Julio Cesar Martinez, to his credit, is still one of the top 2 or 3 flyweights in the world, He didn't, So, and Chocolatito proved a lot of people wrong again earlier this year in March. So, and as far as El Gallo goes, he's in my opinion, he's looked lackluster in his last handful of fights. I mean, he struggled with that Bayaman guy. He did beat Rungvisai in a rematch, but I honestly don't know how much Rungvisai had left. He struggled with Carlos Cuadras in the rematch, got dropped, and again, I think Cuadras was a little bit past it. But, you know, not to say Estrada still isn't a great fighter. He is, but he's looked a little lackluster. And in his last outing, and like I say, in my opinion, he lost to Chocolatito in the rematch as well. And in his last outing against that Augie Cortez guy, I mean, he was getting fucking his bell rung left and right. I mean, you know, and Augie Cortez, I don't think he's as bad of a fighter as people were making it out to be, but it shouldn't have happened before the Chocolatito trilogy. I mean, he does hold the victory over Israel Gonzalez. I mean, he lost, you know, some of these other top super flyweights in the world, but he's not as bad of a fighter as people were making him out to be. But Juan Francisco Estrada did have a very hard time with him, and it was a very close fight regardless of what the scorecards reflected. So when you put that all together, it's going to be a war. It'll be a fucking back and forth, tick for tack kind of fight, just like the first two will. It's the best fight on the schedule for the remainder of the year in boxing, as far as I'm concerned. It'll be another brawl. You know, I'm greatly looking forward to seeing it. Like I said, I'm extremely excited. This one, now that we got Usyk Joshua 2 out of the way, the Triple G Canelo fight, which turned out to be a dud. Got Lomachenko coming back. We got Bivol Zerto, and then this fight to wrap up the year. And we also got Iyoko fighting Josh Franco in Japan on New Year's Eve. So, but this is my favorite fight of the last couple months of the schedule, without question. And I think it's going to be another war. Like I say, I think it's going to be another tick for tack. You hit, I hit, back and forth type of affair. Fan-friendly fight. I think that, you know, and I'll say this right now. Obviously, I lean towards Chocolatito. Chocolatito, maybe there's a little biased in there for me. Chocolatito is one of my favorite fighters of all eras. He's in my opinion, he's one of the best fighters of all time, and he doesn't get the recognition that he deserves because he's a flyweight and a super flyweight, and as we all know, that a lot of the guys from the smaller divisions don't get the recognition they deserve. So I think the way Juan Francisco Estrada looked both in the Chocolatito rematch, which in my opinion he lost, and how he looked against Augie Cortez, you know, I don't see him beat that version of Estrada beating Chocolatito. I think he's going to get knocked the fuck out. And I think it's going to be a fucking brawl. I think it's going to be, like I say, an absolute war, just like the first two fights were. But I do see Chocolatito coming out on top of this one. I think Chocolatito, I don't think this version of Estrada beats this version of Chocolatito. Especially given how they fought against each other in the second fights and the performances each of them had against Julio Cesar Martinez and Augie Cortez in their last outings, respectfully. I think that reflects that. So for my official prediction, I'm going to say that Chocolatito TKOs Juan Francisco Estrada in the 10th round after a brutal, fan-friendly, entertaining war where both guys are going to have to dig deep and see what each of them has left. Because neither one of them are in their prime, you know. But I am going with Chocolatito in this fight. I think it's going to be another fantastic war. I'm so excited for this fight. Like, as I said, you guys know Chocolatito is one of my favorite fighters of all time. I get emotional when the guy fights. So you can expect to see the emotions pouring out of me when these two square off for a legacy-defining, you know, the fucking Barrera Morales of the flyweight division. That's how I think of this trilogy between Chocolatito and El Gallo Estrada. That's how I look at it. I think of it as a Barrera Morales of the flyweight division. So You know, you can expect the emotions to come flowing out of Johnny, man. Like I say, no disrespect to Gallo Estrada. Love him too. God bless him and my Mexicanos out there. But I'm rolling with my dog, Chocolatito, on this one. And like I say, you can expect the emotions to come flowing out of Johnny Boy that night. So for my official prediction, I'm going with Chocolatito. TKO in the 10th round. Yeah. So with that being said, God bless everybody. If you're new to the channel, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. God bless you all. And people, I cannot fucking wait for this fight, man. I'm so excited to see it. Like I say, one of the best fights of the year, man. And legacy-defining fight for both. It's going to be a war. It's going to be fireworks, baby. So let's get it on. God bless everybody. Have a nice day. Salud.